Everyone knows in this day and age, your photos for your house are super important for selling your home fast and selling it for the most amount of money. Today, I'm here with a business owner of a real estate photography business.
Well. How the turntables.
Who's going to give you the best tips to help you sell your home fast and for more money. Daniel, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about your business and why are real estate photographs so important?
Absolutely, yeah. So I own a company called Next Door Photos, and we literally only do real estate photography.
That's awesome.
Figure we'll do one thing, we'll do it really well. But yeah, real estate photography is super important these days because gone are the days of, way back when you had to go actually see the house in person to see it. Everything's online now, right? So really the first impression, the first showing is online, and the photos are one of the key components of that, so they have to be on point.
It's the front door. Everyone's looking. It's like 99% of people are looking online first.
Yeah,
so when you're talking to sellers and you're prepping them to get their house ready, what are some tips you have for them to get their house ready for the shoot?
Yeah, absolutely. So really a lot of it comes down to decluttering.
Yeah.
So, kitchen counters are a good place to start. You want those babies cleaned off as much as possible. And if you can hide appliances, toasters, literally everything, get those magnets off the fridge. We're just talking about clearing stuff out because it makes it look bigger and it looks less cluttered and people can really feel themselves moving into that space. And you want to remove a lot of those personal effects that kind of would tie, a different owner to that property. But then other stuff like, I think curb appeal is really important.
Yeah.
So if you want to start outside and kind of make sure you got some fresh mulch out, and of course you've got your lawn trimmed and all that good stuff is really important. Be on the lookout for faded paint. These are little things that you can do that have a big impact. If your front door is faded, it's not
It's
great.
a big deal. Yeah, it's those first impressions. And so
Right.
when I'm talking with sellers as well, I'm trying to get them the biggest bang for their buck, which is decluttering,
Yep.
paint, landscaping, and maybe flooring.
Right.
Like those are the things that don't cost too much,
Yeah.
but can go such a long way for the photos and the presentation of the home.
Absolutely. And even if you do have good flooring, something that I recommend is all right, let's highlight it. If you've
Yeah.
got scatter rugs all over your kitchen or your bathrooms, but you have really nice floors under there, pull those up because it's going to look that much better in photos. We want to highlight that flooring because the rugs don't come with the house.
Yes. So speaking of highlighting, thinking of the best features of the house, how do you ensure that you guys are really focused on shooting the features of the home that are really going to help it sell?
Yeah. So a lot of that comes down to our expertise and what we do. So being only real estate photographers, not focusing on any other kind of photography, we're in thousands of homes a year. And so seeing so many different homes really helps us to understand what is special about this particular one that we're in right now. And what we like to do is go through the home and walk through the whole home first before we even get started taking those photos, just to make sure everything's ready, but also to be on the lookout for
Is it helpful
anything.
to have sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Is it helpful to have the seller there or to just have it with your guys' eyes, seeing what you think stands out?
I think either way works. Sometimes it's almost better for our photographers to go in and kind of discover those things for ourselves, because a lot of times a seller gets really emotionally attached to a house and maybe they put a lot of work into one specific project and it might be a really nice shower or something. But from our eyes and seeing all the different homes that we go into, we can really notice what is going to stand out for buyers, not necessarily have that emotional connection to the seller.
Yeah. And that's a skill you probably have to learn over time because sellers, they put that money in, or it's like, this is their baby.
Right.
And so you got to kind of have to casually and smoothly say, yeah, most people don't love your rhinoceros that you got from Argentina or whatever it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I always say, I've got buyers, a lot of people who watch the channel, they're actually moving here. And what I always say to them, especially if they're shopping virtually, is like, let us get out there for a virtual tour if you can't be here in person, because real estate photographers are really good at their jobs. They're actually really, really good at highlighting the features. So on the flip side of that, like, what do you do if you have challenging lighting or if you have some parts of the property that are less photogenic? How do you handle that?
So as far as lighting goes, one thing that we do that's really helpful is we actually use a flash.
Yeah.
And so even if we have a kind of a darker room, we bounce that light off of the ceiling and it lights the whole room up. But we also edit that, and it's complicated but we blend it with what we call an ambient exposure. And so we get the best of both. So we can really highlight, enhance that lighting and blend it in with a more natural effect to kind of give a more natural overall look. So that's really helpful. But then in terms of like properties that have maybe some things that we want to gloss over or some less photogenic, as you said, I mean, it comes down to the artistic eye and trying to capture the home in its best light. Because really what it comes down to, our job, we're not trying to be dishonest, right? And we're not trying to do false advertising. Our job as real estate photographers is to get people to come to the house, get them to actually show up. And so we want to show the house in its best light possible. And if that means cropping out the neighbor's, ugly shed or something, then that's what we're going to do.
Well, it's a great point. And it's a fine line, because if you're the listing agent, you actually don't want people to come to the house and then give bad feedback because they're surprised by something that they didn't know was there, or the photos made it look too good. So, I mean, the fact that you guys do this day in and day out and have, like you said, that artistic eye, and you're not overdoing it, but you're not underdoing it. It's a definite skill. When I see people who are, it makes me so sad when I see a listing where someone just went through with their iPhone or something, or they're not. And I'm like, why? Like, please don't do it. Like, it's just, you just lost so much money by doing that.
Yeah, it's a disservice to your seller.
It really is. So speaking of that, what would you say are some of the common mistakes that some sellers do when they're getting the house ready, or anything that they should avoid?
Yeah, I mean, most of it comes down to the home preparation. I see a lot of times people don't get rid of the pet stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people love pets, but anybody who doesn't, or let's say is allergic to cats or whatever it might be, we want to get that stuff out. And so that's a common one that I see. And then just not enough decluttering. But when it comes to photos, those are kind of the bigger mistakes that I see, is just not enough home preparation.
Yeah. So take the time, either get that list from, do you guys have a list?
We do. We have a checklist that we provide.
Yep. And just work through the checklist. And it's so worth it to take that time to get the home ready.
Right.
You've got to let somebody picture themselves in the home. And so it's critically important. That's what we always say. So even if you're months away from getting ready to sell, I always say, start now, start decluttering now, and get all the stuff out that you don't want to move anyway. Like, if you've moved and you've shown up at the new place and you've got a box of stuff and you're like, why do I have this stuff?
Yep.
Like, this has been in my basement for years, and now it's going back in my basement.
Right.
It's like, get rid of that stuff. It's going to make your move better.
Yeah.
And I always say, don't just think about you're not just getting your home ready to list, you're actually starting your move. And if you kind of frame it that way, it doesn't feel like as much work.
It's not as much work. It's just, yeah, exactly.
Totally. Okay. All right. So you've got the normal photos, but we also have additional services like the drone shots nowadays, or virtual tours. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see a huge advantage to those? When should you not do those additional services?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think drone photography has become increasingly important and also popular. So with drone photography, there are a couple things that are great that you can highlight. So obviously one is the home itself and maybe the lot, or the overall setting that it has. But you can also use drone photography to show the context. So what's around the home? Is there a school nearby? Is there a park? Is there whatever it might be, a lake, a body of water? So drone photography is a great way to highlight those things. But even in a neighborhood, I think it can be helpful just to kind of show the overall context, even if there isn't something particularly noteworthy nearby. And it just offers a different perspective too. It's kind of nice to see a little bit higher.
Yep.
And then with other stuff like virtual tours, like specifically like a 3D sort of self-guided tour, that I see a lot of value for relocation clients. So for somebody that's shopping from out of town, like you said, rather than let's say the buyer agent having to go out and kind of record their own tour or something, having a link where they can literally kind of walk through the house virtually is really helpful.
There's a reason why builders do it on their properties, on their websites. Yeah, it's super helpful.
Right.
And it just opens you up to a bigger buyer pool.
Yeah.
Really.
And they're so affordable now. I mean, you don't have to spend hundreds of dollars on one anymore.
Yep. That's great. Now, can you share any stories, good or bad, negative or positive, that you've had with clients in the past where the photography has, made a huge difference?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't think of a specific example, but I mean, I think what it comes down to is having a photographer that is flexible and can really work with you is really important, and one who's reliable. So this is more for real estate agents than it is for sellers, but having a photographer that will actually show up when they say they're going to is really important, because it reflects on you, to your seller. So So I do work with basically an entire brokerage, and they had a lot of struggles with photographers in the past, and usually just kind of working with one independent photographer and that ending up not working out because they don't show up or, whatever it might be. So having somebody they can really count on and then to deliver consistent quality is really important.
And that's something you guys have uniquely kind of developed in terms of your scheduling, right? Can you share more about that?
Yeah, so I think that is really helpful for agents and sellers alike, is we have our schedule on our website. What that means, though, the benefit to that is you can pull that up with your seller and look at a calendar and see dates and times that are available, and that's going to make the scheduling process just so much easier rather than saying, trying to call or text a photographer who's probably out taking pictures right now and can't respond, and so it just
and you've got a team, so you've got availability, and it's like I mean, using your website and having you guys, I'm like, this is amazing, but also getting that date on the books for the seller. If they are prepping their house, it's really nice to have that concrete, like, 2:00 on Tuesday or whatever time it is, I've got to be done, so I've got to get going on it this weekend. So I think that's
and on the flip side too, though, when you are working on those projects or whatever, and so you haven't set a date yet because you don't know when you're going to be done, having somebody who's available on short notice is nice too. So we actually have same day availability. So if they finish up that landscaping and they call you and say, I'm ready, we can actually
that's huge. I mean, to be able to have that and then maybe put in a coming soon so you can get it active for the weekend showings, that turnaround time, it makes a huge difference. And so having a team that can perform like that is amazing. Well, I know we named a few things here, but is there anything else, if someone is looking to interview or hire a photographer, anything else we didn't cover that you said they should really look out for these?
No, not necessarily. I think it is important to hire somebody who really knows what they're doing. They don't have to only focus on real estate like we do, but you want to make sure that they know what they're doing and that they're not just saying, yeah, I can shoot a house, because it's a very specific skill set.
I've had it where I've had people who are more like nature photography, or they're more, more portrait, or, it's just like, it's a very different skill set. So I'm like, no, we don't want this. Yeah. It's very different. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Oh, you're fine. I mean, really the only other thing is like somebody who can really carry out all the different services that you might need. So just because you only need photos on this house doesn't mean that someday you might want video or drone work or a virtual tour, and having somebody that can really carry out all of those different services in one appointment, I think, is important as well.
Awesome. Daniel, thank you so much. If the people out there are looking to list their home in the future, what's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me. I've got a website, cincinnati.nextdoorphotos.com. It has my phone number on there as well, so definitely just reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And guys, if you are looking to sell your house, we'd love to be your real estate agent of choice. Email us at info@teamsztanyo.com. Make sure you get the best photos so that you can sell it fast and sell it for the most amount of money.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys, so much for watching. We'll see you next time.